Is the UK's place as leader in Europe when it comes to foreign investment under threat? According to a survey by Ernst & Young last year, saw the largest number of investment projects secured since 1997. However, 79% of investors in the survey said that access to the European single market was a key feature of the UK's attractiveness. And more than half thought that if the UK votes to leave the EU, the country would be a less attractive destination for investment. Well, joining me now is the Conservative MP and Leave campaigner David Davis. Thank you very much for joining us. So, fears that if we left the EU, a decision you support, then foreign direct investment could be hit, doesn't really help the Brexit campaign.
Well, it's a pretty speculative comment. I mean, if you actually look at the report, last year, 2015, we had the highest inward investment ever, and that was in a year in which a government promising a referendum was elected. So it doesn't really fit together. If you actually read what they say in the report, it says the reasons for this decline are hard to discern. There's been a slight decrease across many of the UK's key attributes. Well, who knows? I would actually be quite surprised if the statements by the Chancellor and the Prime Minister on recession, World War III, everything except a plague of locusts didn't have some effect on business confidence. What will matter is the day after the Brexit decision, if it is for Brexit, what happens then? And those of us on my side of the argument are quite clear in our minds. The access to the European market will be maintained, and access to other markets around the world will be increased. That's really much of the argument for leave. So I don't think this is quite as scary a story as you describe.
Although last week we also saw that markets were appearing to stabilise after investors were pricing in on a Remain win.
Well, we'll see. I mean, inward investment is not based on the short-term movements of the stock market. Inward investments, I used to do this. I was a FTSE 100 director. Inward investments are based on 10, 15, even longer year periods. They're not based on what's happened in the market in 1 week or another. And ditto currency markets. So I think, you'll find that this will stabilise. It's unsurprising you're going to get some turbulence in markets when you get such strong language, rhetoric, when you get reports by the Treasury which bluntly take the two worst possible outcomes and then turn them into forecasts. Hardly surprising that you rattle people who perhaps don't pay as much attention to the detail of Treasury studies as you and I do.
But there's been lots of pessimism among business leaders, jittery investors. How are the Leave campaign really planning to address this uncertainty with less than a month to go now?
Well, you've got there was a report only a few days ago that the view amongst the FTSE 250, not the FTSE 100, FTSE 250, seems to be changing either towards not thinking it's going to make a big difference, or actually towards leave. I mean, that's a movement that's literally occurred in the last 3 or 6 months. So I don't really think it's quite as clear as you say. Also, when the government set out, when Number 10 set out to try and get 100 business leaders to write to the Times, they ended up with 32. That's how serious it is. Similarly, you talk to the people who do the inward investment. There was a lot of talk that Toyota was going to do something different. A lot of talk that Nissan were going to do something different. Actually, it turns out they're going to stay with us. So I really think that you can overstate this argument. I actually think that if you look at the hard facts, the highest inward investment per capita, which is the proper measure, not the aggregate inward investment per capita, is actually in Europe held by Switzerland and Norway, neither of which are members of the EU. So I think it's a story that's on its head at the moment, frankly.
We've had some tweets in from our political correspondent Beth Rigby saying the PM might be going to take a vote of no confidence. Do you know anything about that? What can you tell us about that?
No, give me the background. What is this, a vote of no confidence in what? In the government?
Can I interrupt, Mr. Davis, if you don't mind? It's Kay Burley here.
Sure, hello, Kay.
Hi, how are you doing? The question,
oh, well,
the point is...
You're giving me surprises.
No. The point is that if he loses the vote, even if he doesn't lose the vote come the 23rd, 24th of June, he's got a 50-50 chance of a no-confidence vote because there is such a split in the party and the backbench are not best pleased with the Prime Minister. Do you think it is a 50-50 chance that might happen?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think even in the event that Brexit happens, there will be pressure from quite a lot of us for a degree of stability. I mean, if Brexit happens, take that example first. We're going to need to do a big negotiation. Nobody pretends it's not a serious negotiation, and we're going to want stability on the home front, as it were. So I don't think that's an issue. The bigger issue that's causing grumbling really is the way the government appears to be using or even abusing all the rules. The £9 million spent on the leaflets, the setting up of a special unit in number 10, initially the handicapping of ministers who wanted to go the other way. That's what caused all the grumbling. Frankly, I think when we get to the end of this fight, that'll be over. Okay. I don't really think that'll be a 50-50
Thank you so much, David.
My